Alright, here we go. Here's my final status update and post-mortem for the mood calendar. Let's see how time was spent and what took the longest. Um, really, the only like Trello feature I had left was to finish the long click resizing for the events on the day calendar view. And so obviously that's the thing that took me the longest. There were some holdups. I'll sort of explain. I'll explain what happened with that later, actually. The other thing I had to do was just finish up the notification times. I already had the setting where they could set the times, but the notifications were actually ignoring it. So I went ahead and put in that functionality to get that to work correctly. And I also finished up the snooze. I had to make its own little broadcast receiver to get that snooze function to work correctly. And then really I just was doing some polish. I wanted to make sure all the action bars had a consistent style and that all the icons were the same size between the different action bars, and that spacing was the same, so it wasn't jarring when you were changing between screens. And then I just had some bugs to fix. I had some difficulties handling like midnight, noon, and just some weird little AM PM bugs, and so I got all that ironed out. My walk time for the past 14 days, I can't see any farther back than that. Really, I had almost everything done during the hurricane, and then the week after that, I was finishing up. And then what you see here is just the very, very end when I was doing the very last polishing touches. The total was just 2 hours in the past 14 days. I wish I could go farther back than that. And I actually did submit a walk of time um, on the status update, so that'll be a little bit more up to date. Milestones completed, really, it was just that last one that I finished up, the click drag resizing. So I got that done. As far as for what I learned, the problem with the drag resizing, I thought it was an optimization thing. I thought it was because I was like instantiating things in the on-draw method, and I thought I was going to have to go through and refactor it and make it a lot more streamlined. Turns out none of that was a problem at all. There was really one line of code I needed that made it to work, and that was to ignore intercept touch events. Basically, what the problem was that my scroll view, which was the parent of my day calendar view, after like a couple seconds of dragging, the scroll view would start handling the touch event instead. Even though I had disabled the scroll view so it couldn't scroll up and down while the handles are visible, it was still just, for some reason, just intercepting that touch event, and the touch event would essentially get canceled. So I was able to just at one point be like, hey, scroll view, don't intercept, and then from then on it works perfectly. The other thing I learned was really just a lot of things weren't as hard as I thought. A lot of things didn't take as much time as I thought. During the planning phase, I'm always sort of thinking about the worst case scenarios, and I always think things are going to be more difficult and take more time than they are. Um, I guess need to have a little bit more faith in myself, but I don't know. I like really erring on the side of caution to make sure I don't fail, to make sure that the client's not unhappy. I'd rather under promise and over deliver if possible. Let's see, let's do my demo here. So, it's really not a whole lot new to show you. I guess it would mainly be the resizing. So, I'll go ahead and I'll make a new activity, testing out my app. I'll give it a 10 on the Richter scale here. And let's save it there. And so you see my activity from 3 to 4. I can do a long press, the handles come up, and I can resize it however I want. I can't go above it. That was an initial bug where you could kind of make it inside out, but now I have it stop once it gets to a certain point. And yeah, see that happens. So that was an easy fix. And it also prevents it from making the activities so small that you can't touch it anymore. Once it gets less than like 10 minutes or so, it's like impossible to touch. So I made sure to safeguard against that. But I guess the other features, I mean, obviously you can change the days back and forth here. You can also change it by clicking here. So if you need to go farther away, you don't have to be clicking the arrows for an eternity. The notification will actually show up in 5 minutes since I haven't logged any time, but I'm not going to wait 5 minutes for that. Have our settings screen, and I actually did it. This is something I had to do by hand. Obviously, the thing about the preferences is that it automatically saves them as soon as you actually change it in here. So my back button, I actually had to save all the preferences just in a variable, the old preferences, so that if I hit the back button, that they're not changed here. So it's ironic, really. The back button has way more functionality than the save button. The save button, all it actually does is go back, and the back button actually undoes whatever you did. So that's it. That's a mood calendar. It's a pretty simple app, but it's pretty polished. It took a lot of time to get the date pickers to work correctly, so that everything works really intuitively. And so it's like 90% of the function kind of goes on behind the scenes. And when my mom sees it, she's not impressed at all. But you guys are impressed, so that's what really matters. So that's it. Thank you. It's been a great month.